Matt, one of the reasons why I know you do such an amazing job here, besides it being so obvious, is you are the one person that causes me to I've learned my lesson now. I feverishly write down everything that you trigger in my head as either a point, a counterpoint, or an extension of your point or a question. Because I have learned that I typically I have a conversation with whomever, and there's like one or two things, but I am like writing down like 8 points that because of all the various perspectives and angles that you typically in a situation like this point out. So here goes a number of things. So yes, you brought up Tony Altimore. We did a live stream just a few nights ago to kind of capitalize on the Florida State conversation, then also the situation in the Pac-12 and the rumors with the Big 12. And his point is that to extend on a earlier comment that you had made about even if this disparity in television money is, let's say, $7 to $8 million per year, Big 12 versus Pac 12, that with travel costs and with the academic success of the Pac 12 schools, that is not anywhere near enough money to lure those Pac 12 schools away, in his estimation, versus that connectivity of academic success. That you draw from being in the same category, in the same partnerships with those various Pac-12 schools, with Stanford obviously being at the top of the list. Next point would be the diversity of these relationships and the diversity that you are suggesting that you would recommend partnering with a number of platforms versus putting all your eggs in one basket. There's obviously no perfect scenario in that. If you go with, let's say, 3 different outlets versus one, there are pros and cons in each. You're forcing your audience, the Pac-12 viewers, to feel instead of being able to say, okay, we are with Apple TV and everything I could ever want regarding Pac-12 football is going to be on Apple TV. Okay, that's my destination. There I get everything, versus okay, I've got to sign up for this, I got to sign up for that, I got to sign up for this over here. So there are pros and cons to either scenario. To your point about that being a positive for the Pac-12 is obviously, yes, saturation and setting yourself up with various business partners and exposing yourself to larger audiences, more diverse audiences, and then also having more options going forward in terms of building those relationships. I guess my next one would be, I don't think any of us would envision that the Pac-12 would be in this predicament if USC and UCLA were still on board. That the value of the conference has taken a major blow with those two leaving, and now we're seeing it in a practical sense. Also, Klyavkov, with all of his negotiation skill background and his entertainment background, obviously took a gamble here, at least in my viewpoint, that and there's not necessarily, this is more art than it is science in regards to the negotiation of, do we get out in front of these other conferences and do we try to land a deal before everybody else, or it appears as though he wanted to wait back, see how everybody else would fall into play, and then would be the final. And there is no way, in hindsight, we can all be experts, but at the beginning of that process, there are pros and cons again to taking either strategy. But he took the wait and see, and maybe he was burned there. And then my final point, I got a few others scribbled down that I don't even remember what they are now. But the final one that I will bring up, Matt, is, maybe this is an opportunity for the Pac-12 to really rely on alternate nights of the week, Thursday and Friday in particular, to put some of their best inventory when they could be the only game in town. And why not take advantage and be that game and put a decent game an Oregon Stanford game on a Thursday or Friday night instead of trying to knock heads against the SEC and the Big Ten.
And that's a great point. And, in terms of just thinking about the big picture, if you want to get as much money from Amazon or Apple as possible, that's how you do it, right? Like, you give Amazon a standalone time slot where it's not competing against the rest of college football. Amazon, of course, has Thursday night football
Yeah.
on the NFL, so you could have Amazon Friday night football, the featured Pac-12 game. I mean, like, that makes sense, right? That's exactly the kind of thing that would raise the price point for Amazon, for Apple. Apple, of course, has the Major League Baseball doubleheader during the season. That's on a Friday. So, like, I think your thought is outstanding, and it really plays into, the Pac-12 will have to be creative. And I mean, during the pandemic, I don't know if you remember this, but Cal and UCLA played a game Sunday morning at 9 a.m. In the Rose Bowl. So, 9 a.m. Los Angeles time. So even Sunday, like Sunday afternoon football, put it in the middle. The NFL, and this is kind of a tangent, but it's worth mentioning under the banner of fresh thinking. I'm a believer that the NFL is missing out and has been missing out on a huge opportunity to get even more money and even better TV ratings by not staggering its games. Like, the Eastern games start at 1 o'clock Eastern, but then the Midwest, Chicago, Kansas City, they should have their games start at 2:30 Eastern, and then have the Denver and Arizona Mountain play at 3:30, and then have your West Coast games at 5. And if you staggered them, that way everyone's able to see the end of each layer, 4 different layers. You have NFL Red Zone, would be showing the ends of more games in depth. I mean, I think the NFL has been missing an opportunity. But the point being, fresh thinking, right? Fresh usage of time slots, time windows, and distributing your game inventory in a way where it's new, it's fresh, and you can get a subsection of the market at your door. So if the NFL is just going to stay with just its 2 time slots, 1 and 4:25, what about a Sunday Pac-12 game at 2:30? And of course, a lot of people are going to say, "Well, it's going to be buried by the NFL." But you're sticking something in there. And let's keep in mind, Mark, that, on a number of NFL Sundays during the season, you have just like 2 or 3 NFL games in that 4:25 window. And there are times when that 4:25 window is crap. And having a game to go up against a light 4:25 window, I mean, at least that kind of thinking should be considered. Maybe you don't actually take the plunge and go up against the NFL, but, like, if that's not being discussed, the Pac-12 is not doing everything possible to put its product on a better platform.